Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hello, welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. My guest today is Alara Sage. She is intuitively gifted mentor, teacher, and healer who coaches provocatively and soulfully. I kind of love that. She has over 15 years of experience helping others reignite and transform their own lives. More importantly, she has walked the walk. Alara is host of the Ecstatic Woman Podcast. So, Alara, thank you for being here today. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Karen. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so I know I only read a little piece of your bio. Is there something out of the gate you would like the audience to know about you?
Yeah, excuse me. I'm a womb shaman, meaning that I assist women and actually men to heal through sexual trauma, to heal the reproductive system, and really reconnect to the creative life force that is within all of us. So I work with a lot of people who've had sexual trauma, a lot of infertility, and just honestly, this connection with the ma and the cosmic womb.
Yes, that's so fascinating. I do have that in your show notes. You know, that other part of your bio. How on earth did you get involved in this work? Is there a story there?
Yes, so absolutely. I mean, I feel like I've been involved in this work my whole life because I have been guided by my higher self. From the early age of 19, I was set to go to college, and my higher self rerouted me to travel the world and become a scuba diving instructor. And ever since then, I was taken on this journey of self-awareness, self-exploration, and ultimately into healing. But I would say one of the biggest points that happened in my space and why this work is all very dear to me is back in like 2013, I was working on horses. I did physical therapy to horses. So I worked on their bodies. And I was in the car and I was driving and going to go see the horses. I had to drive to them. You know, they don't bring them to you. And while I was driving, my higher self told me to Om 3 times. And at this time in my life, I meditated regularly. I knew what oming was, but I didn't practice it. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I took a nice deep breath, Om, all the way to the end of the breath. And I did that 3 times. And at the end of the 3rd breath, energy shot from the base of my body all the way through me, out my crown, and I went into full body orgasm. Luckily, I was driving on a back road, so I pulled over and I was just in this total ecstatic orgasmic energy. And, you know, that was very new to me. I'd never had a full body orgasm. At that time in my life, even, you know, sex was very challenging for me. I had been sexually abused by my grandfather at a very early age, and then again from a boy. And so I was pretty shut down sexually. Orgasm was challenging for me, you know, like I could do it, but I had to concentrate. Everything had to be so perfect. And sex always kind of felt disappointing to me. Like I knew there was more and I couldn't access it. So to have this experience just by oming was like blowing my mind in the moment. And, you know, it subsided after a few minutes and I was in this really ecstatic state after the body sensations relaxed. And for the rest of the day, I was in an ecstatic state. And then what happened was I went through about 5 months of kind of chaos because what had happened was I'd had what's called a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. But I didn't know that. I had heard of Kundalini. I didn't really know what it was. I definitely didn't know what had happened to me. And what happens is it's an internal healing energy. It's creative life force energy. And when she's released, she releases a lot of stored trauma out of your body. And, I had really thought of myself as a very emotionally stable person. But the truth was is that I was actually emotionally shut down. And all of those emotions just came rip roaring out. One minute I would be crying in sorrow and grief. Next minute I would be laughing. The next minute I would be raging. And, I was blessed to have that connection to my higher self where I literally asked, am I going crazy? My higher self just said, just breathe and let the emotions move through you. So I did. And after about 5 months, I started to reach an equilibrium. And that's when a book came into my space, as the universe does, called Kundalini Awakening. And the first chapter was a spontaneous Kundalini Awakening. And, outside of the orgasm and all of that, what it really showed me was I was really shut down. I was really numb. And, what I say a lot to people is we don't know what we don't know, right? When we're numb, we literally can't feel. When we're in denial because we're protecting ourselves, because we don't feel safe, we literally can't see. And because of my trauma early on as a child from somebody who was very close to my family, it was my grandfather. He lived right next door to us. We spent all this time with him. Like it was supposed to be love, I became very confused at a very early age, and I had a very, very high sexual energy. And my father, suppressed that. And I just got very confused in the whole era of sexual energy. Who am I as a woman? What does this even mean in my body? And so that process really showed me, for one, what was capable. Like I'm capable of these full body orgasms. My body's not broken. I'm capable of this ecstatic experience. And, from that point on, it was like, I have to understand this better, and I have to help other women experience this as well.
I think you probably blew the mind of anyone listening who's been repressed sexually, or maybe even people that have been hypersexual. I think there's something to be said because, if you're hypersexual, doesn't necessarily mean that you're healed sexually. It could be something that's maybe on a dysfunctional level. So your experience is truly fascinating. Has that happened to you since, or was it a one-time event?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have full body orgasms all the time now, non-sexually. So the Kundalini, once it's open, she's known as Shakti after she opens. And she's known as the goddess energy. And she's within all of us, not just women. And so, I've learned because of what she showed me, I've cultivated this relationship with her. And so now I can activate that energy, which is very powerful and healing, but also absolutely I can go into orgasm. There's all of this tremendous capacity that we have, particularly as women.
Okay. And can you say the name of that book one more time, and also the author if you happen to know?
I don't know who wrote it. It was so long ago. And so my remembrance is it was called Kundalini Awakening, but I'm not certain about that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will look it up and I will add it to the show notes because everybody's going to want to read it after listening to you. And have you yourself written a book yet?
I have actually written a book. It's like complete, but not complete. I don't know if you've written a book, Karen, but it's like the birthing process. So it's complete, but it wants to be maneuvered a little bit more. Yeah.
Okay. Well, once it's published, please let us know so we can add that to the show notes because people are going to want to read that. And tell me a little bit more about Kundalini. Are you a Kundalini yoga instructor? Like, what kind of work do you do with it now? And do you teach it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an activator just naturally in who I am and the energy that I carry. and my intimate relationship with that energy. And so, Kundalini yoga is just one method of activating Kundalini. And I don't use Kundalini yoga. I never learned Kundalini yoga. I've played with it a little bit and just like, it's not for me. I teach my clients to use their breath because our breath is always there. And in all honesty, when we just use our breath and connect into our bodies are extremely wise. And Kundalini is very powerful. And sometimes when you look online about Kundalini, there's a lot of warnings, right? Like, be aware, like this can make you go crazy because, I personally, was on the border of that, I would say. And so the way that I work with my clients is we're taking a back seat to the body. We're just breathing in and holding space. She will do, the goddess, the Shakti, she will do exactly what she needs to do per the unique divine timing of each individual, right? Because, I had this spontaneous awakening. That's not for everybody. Some people go much slower. Some people go in between, and there's no better than, right? Spontaneous awakening is not better than slow and steady. It's really what's best for the individual. And so when I work with clients, I connect them to that energy so they become familiar with it. And then we just start to breathe into it and work to it and allow her the process of unfolding.
Beautiful. This might be an odd question. It keeps popping up, so I'm going to go ahead and just listen to that. And hopefully I can articulate it well. So I was talking with a guest earlier, and I think offline is when we had this conversation, and it's coming up again for me. She and I find ourselves, this other guest, find ourselves in this weird in between being a spiritual healer and our Christian faith and walk. And we were talking about what a weird space that is, even though spirituality is spirituality and healing. A lot of times, spiritual healers are anti-religion because of religious trauma and just what religion can mean, and also feel like maybe Christians are judgmental, not open-minded, right? And then, of course, there are Christians who are judgmental, closed-minded, and actually see spiritual healers as like wicked witches, sources of the devil. I'm wondering if this is something that's come up for you, or how do you keep people to be open-minded that may not be open to different spiritual awakenings? I hope I asked that in a decent way. Love your thoughts.
I think that's a really beautiful question. First off, I was raised Catholic. And, I see everything from the lens of unity consciousness, which is that everything is the light of God.
Yeah.
And, everything has a purpose. So, there's also spiritual teachers and people who are dogmatic and say that this is the only way, just like there are religious communities and people who are dogmatic and say that this is the only way, right? And I see all of it as roads that lead to the same point. And it's our own journey to decide what feels right and to grant us the permission to be curious and also to change. If you're called to one thing and you play with that for a little while and that feels good, and then for some reason you're called to something else, and grant yourself that permission. And there's nothing wrong with trying different things and different modalities and different expressions. And, it's kind of like putting on different outfits. And really, I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do as humans is to explore different perspectives and challenge ourselves. in the perspectives that we want to right away dismiss or reject, right? Because any level of rejection is ultimately the rejection of self. It comes down to everything is a reflection. So when we want to reject something, when we want to call it, whether it's dogmatic and closed-minded or if it's evil and demonic, it's still rejection. And that rejection is always internal. So I always bring myself through the process of like, as soon as I feel a subtle part of my identity going, oh yeah, not that, then I'm like, oh sweet, I step into it, right? And like ask questions of, tell me about your perspective so I can hear, so I can listen, so I can have it from you rather than my perspective of what your perspective is, because all perspectives have some level of truth in them. And as we allow our minds to be open to more perspectives, we actually gain more truth through that process.
And that was very beautifully stated. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually feel a little sad for people that won't explore or open their mind to different ways of thinking and being in the world. I feel anyone listening, I just encourage you to just explore different cultures, different religions. Doesn't mean you have to practice what other people practice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But explore, just be curious. I think it just helps with connecting with others in a deeper way as well.
Yeah, and it just comes from fear, like the fear of the unknown, the fear of the things that we don't understand. And so, I always say, acknowledge that there is some fear there, right? Because when we acknowledge the fear, then we can see, okay, do I want to take action for that fear? Do I want to believe what the fear is telling me? Or do I have a choice, right? And the fear is real. That's a normal human thing, is to fear what we don't know, to fear what we don't understand. It's just different for everybody. Everybody has different fears. But the acknowledgement of the fear is the first step to really transmuting the fear, overcoming it, because behind our fear is our greatest genius and expression.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I would like to circle back to the work that you're currently doing, the womb work. What has your experience been with survivors of sexual abuse and their journey? How do you help them heal? Can you say more about that?
This is so dear to my heart, just because, again, I went through it. And, looking back on it, I get emotional when I talk about it, because I can see how that wounded version of me, carried forward in life and created a lot of pain from that wounding. And specifically with sexual trauma, but I would go as far to say as the majority of trauma, so physical abuse, emotional trauma, it really comes down to the energy of shame. And shame is so painful. It's so painful. And as women, we tend to carry that shame in our wombs. And the womb to me is so magical. And I just love to say, like, can we all get some like celebration in here? Because we have an organ in our body as women that literally takes soul, brings it into physical form. I mean, it's
such a miracle.
Pure magic. It's a miracle. Like, we have that in our bodies. We do that. We do that. So we have this magnificent organ and this magnificent ability of miracle that has been lost in our society. Like, the old traditions used to just rever so deeply the womb and the yoni, the vulva, and just the woman for this capacity Like, all hail the being that brings us forth, what would we do without that? And the goddess and the Ma energy. And so for me, it's about reconnecting women to that within themselves, releasing that shame, releasing that inadequacy and unworthiness, because that's really been my journey of just the deep feelings of unworthiness and inadequacy. And, again, where I was creating my life through that. And I always struggled to really stand in my power and wanted to make everybody around me really comfortable, because if everybody around me was worthy or felt happy and comfortable, somehow that like made me feel better. And so helping women to release that shame and that unworthiness from their womb, from their ovaries, from their G spot, from their clitoris, from their sexual energy, and they sink down into their bodies, because usually their energy is up really high in their head, and they sink down into their bodies, and they first off, it's just like this coming back to self, it's coming back to our bodies as a woman. Like, yeah, I have hips, I have curves, this is me, this is who I am, and like owning that in ourselves from this love and this recognition and this connection. And then really beginning to have a voice again, right? A voice, because our sacral, our pelvis is directly connected to our throat, our voice, and our thyroid. So there's a lot of intricacies with hormonal imbalances with women and their reproductive system, and our ability to speak and to speak our truth, not in this bitchy way, right? But in this like full of compassion. I have compassion, I have heart, I have love, and this is my truth. And I will stand in it. And this is my no, period. And this is my yes. And, my clients just totally transform, similar to me, of the unworthiness and shame and the shutdown, the retract, the people pleasing, the lack of voice, into this. And it's unsteady at first, like I'm not going to say we just shoot right into it. Like, it's unsteady. They're like, I'm speaking my truth. I don't know. We get through it and they're like, wow, like the relationships change, right? Their positions in their career changes. Of course, their confidence, their self-love just radically shifts, and their ability to open up to more pleasure and more abundance, more resource, because the resource wealth is actually the Ma. It's Mother Gaia. It's the connection to the mother essence. So our ability to have wealth, to have abundance, to have resource is that reconnection to her.
Well, what I'm really hearing is once they do this healing work, it opens up everything for them.
It really does. It's such a beautiful thing for me to watch. And the relationships I have with my clients, are so deep that it's just like we just become like just women together in a community, right? And just watching them flourish, and we just get giddy with each other in celebration of it. Also unfolds their genius. We all hold this unique fractal in which the light of God shines through us. My fractal is different than your fractal is different than the listener's fractal, right? And it's unique to us, and we need all of our fractals present. We need the light of God shining through us. And so as they do this work, like their way to bring what they can bring into the world that like lights them up and feels good and serves humanity also unfolds.
Beautiful. And do you also like teach classes or have workshops, any group work, or is it mostly one-on-one practice?
Oh yeah, no, I do all of it. I have an academy, and which is more like they join. It's like a monthly membership, so they have access to all the programs, and we do live bi-weekly sessions with the academy in a group. I have programs, I have one-on-one, I do workshops, I have, online things that people can buy. So it's all there.
Oh, beautiful. And when I was scheduling the interview with you, you had mentioned to ask you about a gift for the audience because you weren't sure at the time that when you first signed up. So I'm just curious if you have something or want to think about that more. It's okay too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have this ebook, 44 pages, and it's called Awakening Aliveness. And it really goes into some of this de-armoring for us women, how to de-armor this protection and these spaces where we haven't felt safe in our bodies and in ourselves. And so it starts there. And it really brings in some really beautiful practices. It's very intensive and detailed. So in and of itself is a piece of work. And it's really, really beautiful.
That sounds amazing. And do you have a link? It's okay you don't know at the top of your head. We can add it to the show notes, but do you happen to know the link off the top of your head?
Yeah, we can add to the show notes. I think it's Alara Sage / Awakening Aliveness. It's also on my homepage right there at the front and center, alarasage.com.
Okay. Sometimes if people aren't watching, if people are driving, I worry. So
Yeah.
I put the link in the show notes anyway. So don't try to drive and take notes on this session. You can always listen later, watch on YouTube, and we'll make sure the show notes has all the ways to hook up and meet Alara and get to know her better. And can you say your website one more time too, just for people listening?
Absolutely. alarasage.com. And I'm also on social media, Alara Sage everywhere. So.
Yeah, I have all your social media handles. But when people use their name, it's just so much easier to remember. Yes. And you probably have a unique name.
I do.
know I tried to do my name and it was a no-go.
Yeah.
All right. So Alara, say your name one more time.
Alara.
Alara. Okay, I was saying it quickly. For the woman who is nowhere near where you are, the woman who's listening, who's having a lot of pain right now and not sure what the first step is to her healing, what kind of wisdom can you give her today to get started?
The breath. Just to take a nice deep breath, my love. Breathe into your belly. Just feel that breath coming in. Feel how it creates a natural expansion in your body. Your body just opens up and expands, and then just exhaling and you're letting go. And as you breathe in, you can set the intention, if it resonates, to breathe in the light of God. And feel yourself expand as that breath and the light of God comes into your body. And set the intention that as you breathe out, you let go. You let go of the pain. You let go of the stress. You let go of whatever's on your mind that's weighing on you right now. Breathe in, receive, expand. Exhale, release, let go.
Beautiful. One of my favorite things about breath is it's free.
And it's always there.
I know. So explain to me why I don't do this on the regular. Like why I can go work all day and not take one cleansing breath until my it comes into my awareness to do so. Why is it that we don't naturally just do this for ourselves? Do you think it's part of trauma too?
Well, for one, we've been conditioned out of breathing properly. But two, it's about embodiment. When you're really embodied, your body will remind you. Your body is constantly reminding you, hey, water, hey, this, hey, oh, hey, stop, breathe. So when we're up in our mental body, we're up in our solar plexus and we're not down in those lower chakras, we're up in the head. And the head doesn't think about these things. The head is like your to-do list and what's happening in the past. But your body is always there. And so when we connect deeper into those lower chakras and into the womb, then we are reminded throughout the day via our body.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. 'Cause like when I'm super busy, I do forget to drink water, even if it's sitting right beside me. It's like I'm doing all the things. So I'm glad you said that. it's a good
Karen,
reminder
come be
that
a part with us. Come be with us and come into your body.
I know for sure I need to practice that. I've been doing some somatic experiencing work.
Beautiful. Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely an area that needs some fine tuning for sure.
Yes, we all need it for sure.
Thank you so much for being a guest today. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today, and I hope you stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you to the listeners for gifting us their time, their space, and their presence. I'm grateful to them.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.